So when I was 15 years old, I was at youth group and I started playing drums so I've been doing music my whole life, but started playing drums at 6, started playing guitar at 12, and then when I was like 14, 15, I was at youth group and my boy Ben, he came in and he was like, "Yo, check out this techno beat that I made." And I was like, "You made this?" And he had it on a CD, so I'm like, "Here, play it." And he plays it and I'm like, "This is dope as fuck." Like, bro, what? And he's like, "Yeah, bro, I made this." I'm like, "No way you made this." He's like, "Yeah, I'll show you." So he went over to his house after the youth group and he opened up his laptop and he shows me FL Studio 5. And I was like, "Bro, what?" And he was like, "Yeah, this is how I made it." And he broke it down for me. And then I asked him to burn me a copy of FL Studio 5 onto a disc, brought it home, installed it, started working with that. And then about like I would say 2 weeks, 3 weeks into my journey of making beats, I had a friend from school that just moved to America from England, and he rapped. And I was like, "Yo, bro, I'm making beats. You rap. Let's make some songs." And so I went out. I was working at McDonald's, 16 years old, and I remember I told my mom, I was like, "I want to buy this box." It had a microphone, little speakers like this big, had an interface that was like this big in it, and I was like, "I need this to be able to record. So can we go get this?" And like, I had just enough to get it, and then I got like a MIDI keyboard. So she brought me there to get that, and then like that weekend we started recording, and from there I fell in love with it. Like I just started studying and going to Borders books and getting books that were all about home recording and recording setups and just audio in general, and started just like studying. If I couldn't buy the book, I would read it at the store for like 2 hours and then hide it and then go back to the store another day to try to like make sure it was there. So that was my start of it, man. Like I just wanted to be creative. When I really realized that like this was for me was really honestly as soon as I started, to be honest with you, because like I started making, like I was always that kid in class that was banging on the desk, humming and making beats and stuff, and my boys would rap and stuff, and then like I started playing, like I said, I started playing drums at 6. I played those from 6 to all the way until my senior year until I graduated from high school. So I was super dedicated with music. Music was always like my life. A lot of kids, they get into sports, like they get in pee wee football and they start playing football as a kid. And I was in school band, I was in church band or in the worship group. So for me, it was music, 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 music. So that's all I knew. So when I finally found something that I could be super creative with, like it felt like I had a paintbrush that I could just take music and just paint these pictures with it, right? So I instantly fell in love with it. And then literally, I would say when I was 16, when I was in high school, my guidance counselor started asking me, like, "What do you want to graduate and go to college for? What do you want to go to college for?" And I started saying, "Well, is audio engineering or audio production a thing for college?" And she was like, "Well, it's not as popular, but we can find places that have it." And then I started researching it more. So I would say around like 16 was I was like, "Yeah, this is like gonna be my life," like really. And then from there on, bro, I'm a weird person, bro. I didn't put this up, put it down. I have not stopped since I was 16 years old. I haven't stopped making music every day. Like I even when I was sick, I would be sitting there making beats on my laptop and shit. So I think overall in 17 years, I've probably taken a month off total, like add it all up with sick time, maybe a vacation or two, but I've been dedicated. As a producer and engineer, it's not necessarily always the technical side or like recording side. Sometimes I have to be a vocal producer. I have to kind of coach the artist in the booth and how to get their vocals to a certain point. I've had to be a creative thinker with production, post production, vocal production, which is post production is after things are already laid down and somebody wants to add, say for instance, a stutter or an effect that sounds a certain way. I have to take their description and bring it to life and create it. So that's one of the things is being a creative producer versus a technical producer. But beat maker, I produce beats. Recording engineer, mixing engineer. Uh, some people do mastering engineer also. I'm not a mastering engineer, so that's a whole different level of like techniques and stuff. And then you got also editors. You have the people that so I have to do all those different things. So in the big industry, in like the big studios or big projects, like you're working for maybe Beyonce or something, you might have somebody who's doing the audio editing. They might be just cleaning up the vocals and making sure everything is the way it needs to be. You're going to have just a recording engineer. You're going to have an editing engineer or an assistant engineer. Then you're going to have a mixing engineer or 2 mixing engineers or 3 mixing engineers because they might pass it off to people. And then you have the final person who's the mastering engineer who makes the final mix louder and a lot more comparable to all the industry songs out. It also makes it so it can translate on all systems. So those are the hats I do wear in multiple cases. But like, it's not every session it's like that. It's like, it changes per client and per situation. So you never know what hat you're actually going to be wearing until you're in the situation. That's why you always got to be ready to adapt. So my first job in the audio field was right when I was fresh out of high school. I had produced a beat for a local artist, Javel, and I had made like 3 beats for him, and he used 2 of them. And he had opened up a studio, like a small little rap studio. It was one room, one recording room, and then there was a booth, and then we had like a little chill area. But that was my first job, was at GMP Studios. I just became a recording engineer and just started learning from there. And that was really, like, to be honest with you, that was my college too, in a way. Like, I didn't go to college for this. I didn't do any, school or anything. That was from there until probably like 3 or 4 years later. Like, it was like all learning and adjusting and learning more and adjusting more, hands-on stuff without people or YouTube or people that really knew what they were doing. It was like I was in the trenches learning it. So that was my first job, bro. Like, that was purely jump in the hot seat, do what you can do, and do your best. Syracuse, specifically Syracuse, I worked with Quay, Felony Set. I've worked with Bad News. I've worked with Cream the General. I've worked with Ivan the Great. I've worked with Taj Mahal. I've worked with Panic Boys. I've worked with DME, which is Lack, Lydia, and Pretty Much. And then there's also I could keep going for days. Hurricane Gang I've worked with, which is Q, Fly, and man, I got so many names to jump through my head right now. Sorry, guys. Moneybags Movement. I got Rel, Droppo. You got Pauly. Name anybody from Syracuse, pretty much, except for like these younger crowds. I moved out in 2019, so anybody from 2019 that was like 16, 17 in 2019, or maybe 15, 14, I wasn't working with them. But everybody else you could think of in Syracuse, I pretty much worked with, rap-wise, R&B-wise. So, the names are extensive. Thump Mendoza, rest in peace, big bro. That is a legend I have to mention. Alright, so my brother Chris Streets, that's a fact. We locking in heavy. My brother Dreadlock, we locking in heavy. And then the third one is the toss-up. This one's the hard one. So I'd have to say my brother Famous Kid Brick. So those are 3 that I would say lock in. We sleeping in the studio making nothing but song after song after song after song.
All right,
bangers too.
Definitely have to go check them out.